He thought he was safe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. An entire empire, literally billions of dollars exposed. On August 24th, the CEO of an $8.5 billion NFL dynasty was arrested. But, he wasn't caught on a mega yacht.
Right.
He wasn't cornered in some discreet, high-security penthouse suite. And there were no secret Swiss bank accounts involved.
Not at all.
He was arrested in a $140 a night transaction at a trailer park in Ohio.
It is still just so jarring to hear out loud.
It's wild. So today we are taking a deep dive into the shockingly grubby reality of illicit markets. And why immense wealth just cannot save you from a meticulously engineered police trap.
Yeah, because we're conditioned to expect the misdeeds of the ultra-wealthy to match their tax brackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we assume this level of sophistication, insulated by money and fixers and, NDAs.
Right.
But the reality of these environments, it just completely shatters that glossy Hollywood image.
It really does. And that jarring contrast is the exact mission of this deep dive today. So to unpack this, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot to cover.
We do. We have a Korean sports news report that detailed the recent arrest of an NFL owner. We've got some incredible, witty, if entirely baffled commentary from a Scottish football blog.
That one's my favorite.
It's so good. We also have a comprehensive Georgia legal defense guide on vice crimes and a public radio report on a precedent-setting billionaire scandal down in Florida. So we are going to look under the hood of how these trafficking networks and the police task forces tracking them actually operate.
Yeah, let's start with the headline that sparked all of this, the arrest of Jed York.
Right.
Because when you look at the background provided by that Korean sports news report, the pedigree here is just staggering.
Staggering is really the only word for it. I mean, Jed York is 46 years old, and he is the CEO and principal owner of the San Francisco 49ers.
Which is an absolute legacy franchise in the NFL.
Massive. I mean, his grandfather bought the team back in 1977. His uncle, Eddie DeBartolo Jr., led the team during its golden era.
And then stepped down after his own gambling scandal.
Exactly. So there's some history there. And York just recently became the principal owner in 2024, acquiring the shares from his mother.
So we are talking about the steward of a family empire, valued at $8.5 billion.
A billion, with a B.
Yeah. And through 49ers enterprises, he even holds stakes in major European football clubs, like Leeds United and Rangers.
So this is a man who operates in the absolute highest echelons of international sports and finance,
right?
Which makes the setting of his arrest on August 24th almost hallucinatory.
It really is.
He was caught in an undercover sting by the Mahoning Valley Human Trafficking Task Force. And where did they catch him?
No.
At the Wheat Hill Mobile Home Community.
A trailer park.
A trailer park in East Palestine, Ohio, which, incidentally, is his birthplace.
The Scottish football blog we reviewed, they seized on that disparity immediately.
I mean, how could you not?
Right. They pointed out the sheer absurdity of a man who moves in these elite corporate circles.
Yeah.
Where, people routinely spend more on a Tuesday business lunch than a normal family spends on an annual holiday.
Oh, absolutely.
And he finds himself in handcuffs over a $140 transaction.
Their reaction in that blog was just priceless. They were completely baffled by the total lack of glamour.
They literally wrote that it makes you wonder if somebody deliberately searched Google for the, the least salubrious possible location to blow up his reputation.
Which is such a funny way to put it. And they even joked that this explains the Rangers' recent low-cost transfer strategy.
Oh, yeah, they compared it to shopping at Aldi instead of Marks and Spencer.
Right. And, it's dark humor, obviously, but it points to a very real cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Because it's like a billionaire flying a private jet to go shoplift at a dollar store.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
Like, is this just extreme hubris on his part? Just believing he's completely untouchable? Or is it simply the reality that illicit markets just don't offer luxury, risk-free options?
Well, what's fascinating here is that hubris absolutely plays a role.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when you possess that level of wealth and institutional power, there is often this deeply ingrained psychological belief that you are insulated from the consequences that apply to, average people.
So you start to believe your own invincibility.
Exactly. You think the rules don't apply. However, the fundamental reality of the illicit market is that it is inherently dirty.
Right.
It's dangerous.
Okay.
And it's heavily surveilled. There is no VIP tier that is exempt from law enforcement sting.
Even if you have $8 billion.
Even then. In fact, task forces design these traps specifically to catch individuals who think they are being discreet. They leverage their desire for secrecy right against them.
I want to dig into how those traps actually work, because if you're listening to this and wondering how a billionaire gets caught so easily in a mobile home park, you really have to understand the legal engineering behind these operations.
Yeah, it's not what people think it is at all.
Not at all. Our source from the Sherman Law Group in Georgia breaks this down perfectly, and it completely flipped my understanding of what actually constitutes a crime in these scenarios.
The Georgia Legal Guide is incredibly illuminating because it dismantles the biggest misconception the public holds.
Which is?
Most people, and often the defendants themselves, they assume that a physical act has to take place for a vice crime to be committed.
Right, like you picture the cops busting down the door right in the middle of everything.
Exactly, like out of a movie. But under the law, the crime is the agreement.
Wait, the agreement itself is the crime?
Precisely. The law criminalizes the offer or the agreement to perform sexual acts for money. No money actually has to change hands. And no physical contact whatsoever has to occur. The undercover officers from the task force, they post fake advertisements on known prostitution websites.
And York allegedly responded to one of those ads.
Yes. And he arranged to meet a woman for $140. That digital exchange, that text message, agreeing to meet at the mobile home park for a specific price, that was the entirety of the crime.
Just the text message.
Yep. And undercover cops are legally permitted to lie about their identities and their intentions to cast this net.
Okay, I was looking at the actual charges when the news first broke, and this is where it gets really fascinating to me. York was initially charged with possessing, quote, criminal tools.
Right.
Now, when I hear criminal tools in the context of a vice sting in a trailer park, my mind instantly goes to some pretty wild cinematic places.
Oh, for sure. The Scottish blog was having a total field day with this.
Yeah.
Joking about ski masks and metal poles and extreme equipment.
Exactly. But the legal definition is incredibly mundane.
It is. The criminal tool they charged him with possessing was simply his mobile phone.
His phone. Like literally just an iPhone.
An iPhone. In these modern stings, digital evidence is the absolute centerpiece. Law enforcement doesn't need to go through the logistical nightmare of setting up audio recordings or hidden video surveillance in a hotel room.
Which sounds like a lot of work anyway.
Right. They don't need any of that if they have a text thread where you agree to a price, a specific act, and a location. The phone is the instrument used to facilitate the crime. Therefore, legally, it is a criminal tool.
Wow.
Prosecutors use those text messages to unilaterally prove intent and agreement.
Okay, but I have to push back on that threshold, though, because it feels incredibly low.
How so?
Well, isn't this essentially a thought crime until the money actually changes hands? It's less like getting a speeding ticket and more like being arrested for bank robbery just because you texted the getaway driver the address of the vault.
Yeah.
Like, the text itself is the trigger.
The threshold is low by design. The Legal Defense Guide actually refers to these as engineered environments.
Engineered environments, okay.
Yeah. These are not organic situations that police officers just happen to stumble upon while they're out on patrol. They are meticulously scripted operations. The undercover officers are highly trained to elicit very specific words or phrases via text message.
Oh, so they steer the conversation.
Exactly. They want to lock in the statutory elements of the crime. The intent, the price, the location, and they want all of that locked in before the suspect even puts the car in park.
That makes sense.
The goal isn't to prevent a crime in progress, The goal is to extract a digital confession to secure an absolutely airtight conviction.
So the trap snaps shut the second you hit send on that text message. The actual arrival at the trailer park is just the police collecting the prize?
Precisely. The suspect arrives completely unaware that the case against them has already been closed.
No.
Because the entire crime lives on that iPhone, the police don't need a lengthy trial. And for a high net worth individual, that digital certainty triggers a very immediate panicked reaction.
Yeah, let's talk about that reaction, because I was looking at the timeline of York's arrest, and the speed of the fallout is what completely threw me off.
It was fast.
Incredibly fast. The arrest happens on a Sunday morning. Within 24 hours, by Monday, York had already negotiated a plea deal.
24 hours?
Yeah. His original charges, which were engaging in prostitution and possessing criminal tools, both first-degree misdemeanors, Those were amended down to disorderly conduct and possessing criminal tools.
Quite a drop.
Yeah, and he pleaded no contest. He paid a $1,150 fine, forfeited the $160 he had in cash on him at the time of the arrest, and was sentenced to 2 days in jail.
But he didn't actually serve that, right?
Right. Crucially, he was credited for time already served during his initial booking, so he walked away without serving any additional time. How does a billionaire plead out in 24 hours?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the speed of that resolution reveals everything you need to know about how wealth operates in the justice system.
Okay, tell me more.
The Georgia Legal Defense Source makes a brilliant point here. For high net worth individuals, corporate executives, public figures, the statutory penalty is completely irrelevant.
Meaning the fine.
Right. A $1,000 fine and a couple of days in jail mean literally nothing to them. The real casualty is their reputation.
Okay, I see. Because if you're listening to this and wondering, why on earth wouldn't a billionaire just hire a team of top-tier lawyers to fight a $1,000 fine for years? You have to remember that for these guys, the courtroom isn't the threat.
No, the PR disaster is the threat.
Right. They aren't fighting to stay out of a jail cell. They're fighting to keep their name out of the search engines.
And law enforcement understands this dynamic perfectly. The legal guide points out that shame is the state's silent ally here.
Oh, that's a great way to phrase it.
It is. Professionals and wealthy individuals are actually much easier targets for these digital stings than street-level criminals.
Wait, really? Easier?
Absolutely. Think about it. They have predictable schedules, they have deep digital footprints, disposable income, and above all, a desperate need to protect their public image.
Oh, so they have a lot more to lose.
Exactly. This desperation makes them highly compliant. The absolute last thing they want is to fight the charges in a drawn-out public trial where their private text messages are read into the public record.
That makes total sense.
They want to pay the fine and make the story disappear before the news cycle even catches on.
But does their wealth make them a bigger target for the police? Like, are these task forces specifically trying to snare billionaires to generate splashy headlines and justify their funding? Or does the wealth just make them a more compliant target? Because the police know they'll take a quick plea deal, and it's an easy win for the prosecutor's statistics.
It's mostly the second one. Efficiency is the primary goal for the justice system, so it leans heavily toward that compliant target idea. The legal guide notes that while wealth does not create criminal intent, it drastically changes the legal strategy. For a billionaire, proving innocence takes time. It takes public hearings, and it exposes evidence.
Which is exactly what they want to avoid.
Right. The goal shifts entirely from proving innocence to containment and invisibility. They want the lowest possible charge with the least amount of public disclosure.
And the police know this.
The police know that if they ensnare a high-profile individual, they will get a fast plea, absolutely no pushback on their undercover tactics, and a quick close to the case.
It's just the path of least resistance for everyone involved.
Yep.
The billionaire pays what amounts to pocket change, the police get a closed case, and the system moves on.
Yeah.
But I want to pause here for a second because it is incredibly easy to sit back and laugh at the sheer absurdity of the Scottish blogs roasting a billionaire for bargain hunting in a trailer park.
It is, yeah.
But we have to make a very hard pivot now. The underlying reason these task forces are running these stings is not to generate tabloid fodder. It is deadly serious.
Absolutely.
To understand the true gravity of what we're talking about, we have to look at a parallel case from our sources. The Robert Kraft precedent. Because when you look at what happened in Florida, that dark comedy vanishes instantly.
It really does. The Kraft case from 2019 is the dark mirror to the York arrest. And it exposes the brutal reality that funds these illicit environments in the first place.
So just for some background, Robert Kraft is the owner of the New England Patriots, a man worth an estimated $6.6 billion.
Right.
In 2019, he was charged with solicitation after 2 visits to the Orchids of Asia Day Spa in Jupiter, Florida.
Right.
And this wasn't just him. This specific sting ensnared a whole roster of magnates, including John Havens, who was the former president and COO of Citigroup, and billionaire financier John Childs.
They're a very high-profile group of guys.
Very. But the most shocking part of this story wasn't the high-profile arrests at all. It was what the police found inside the spa when they raided it.
The NPR report on this operation is chilling. It really is. The Martin County Sheriff revealed that Orchids of Asia wasn't just a massage parlor facilitating illegal transactions on the side.
Yeah.
It was a fully operational hub of human trafficking.
Yeah. They found 6 to 8 women living inside this small commercial storefront 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It's awful.
Most were Chinese immigrants who had been lured to the United States with the promise of legitimate jobs in nail salons. And once they arrived, the trap snapped shut.
Yeah, they're trapped inside.
They were cooking their meals on hot plates in this cramped back room. They were sleeping on the exact same massage tables where they were forced to service 8 to 15 men every single day.
The state attorney quite accurately referred to it as modern-day slavery.
It really is.
These women were kept in bondage, and not necessarily by physical chains, but by severe psychological and economic coercion. They were isolated. Many did not speak English. Their passports were often controlled by the operators. And they were terrified that if they cooperated with law enforcement, their families back in China would be targeted by the trafficking network.
God. Put the buyers and the victims side by side for a moment, and the economic disparity is just staggering.
It's hard to even wrap your head around.
You have men possessing literal billions of dollars, men who own professional sports dynasties and global financial firms, casually walking into a strip mall to purchase the freedom and the bodies of women who have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Women who are sleeping on massage tables in a back room. It is an economy built entirely on the most extreme power imbalance imaginable.
And that extreme disparity is precisely why law enforcement dedicates resources to these police stings.
Because people always ask, why do law enforcement target the Johns?
Right, the buyers.
Instead of just going after the human traffickers themselves.
Well, the Martin County Sheriff articulated the strategy perfectly. The traffickers might hold the keys to the storefront, but the buyers fund the entire miserable enterprise.
Okay, that makes sense.
Without the men walking through the front door with cash, the entire system of exploitation collapses. The buyers are the economic engine of human trafficking.
But let's talk about the fallout of that, though. Given the horrific realities of the trafficking industry that fuels these locations, how does the justice system, and the corporate world for that matter, actually penalize these high-profile buyers?
Well, that's where things get really frustrating.
Because when I look at the penalties, I'm genuinely confused by the disconnect.
If you are looking for symmetry between the crime and the punishment, you are not going to find it in the criminal justice system.
We saw York's punishment. A $1,150 fine, 2 days of time served, and an online education program.
Yeah.
For a guy whose team is worth $8.5 billion, a $1,000 fine doesn't even register as a rounding error on his personal balance sheet.
No, it's nothing to him.
And Robert Kraft, he utilized a high-priced legal defense team to fight his charges for years and eventually got the video evidence thrown out on a technicality regarding the surveillance warrants.
Yep.
So the actual criminal penalties for the buyers seem incredibly minor. It feels like the real accountability, if there is any to be found, falls to corporate or league discipline.
And often corporate discipline is the only mechanism with real teeth in these scenarios. With York, the NFL issued a statement saying they are reviewing the matter under the league's personal conduct policy.
Which has some pretty strict rules, right?
It does. That policy strictly prohibits sex offenses, and importantly, it explicitly applies to team owners, just as it does to the players on the field.
But the 49ers organization, of course, just issued a very brief statement saying they will not provide further comment since the, quote, legal matter has concluded.
Right. They are relying heavily on that PR strategy of containment and invisibility we discussed earlier.
But if this industry is truly modern-day slavery, as the prosecutors call it, why do the billionaire buyers walk away with a fine that is equivalent to pocket change for them?
It's tough to reconcile.
Is public humiliation the only actual punishment they face? Because to the average person, it feels incredibly disproportionate to the misery they are actively funding.
It feels disproportionate because it fundamentally is. But we have to understand how the impartial legal system operates to make sense of it.
Okay, break that down for me.
The justice system processes the specific statutory crime committed by the individual. So in York's case, misdemeanor solicitation or disorderly conduct.
Right.
The court is sentencing Jed York for sending a text message and agreeing to pay $140.
Just the text.
Just the text. The court is not sentencing him for the moral weight of the entire global human trafficking industry.
Wow.
The law has to be applied strictly to the specific elements of the offense charged, regardless of the broader horrific societal context of the illicit market.
So that's why the penalties feel like a slap on the wrist to the public.
Exactly. The public is judging the moral crime, while the court is only legally permitted to judge the statutory one.
That is a fascinating distinction, and it explains so much of the public outrage. The public sees a billionaire funding a network of human trafficking, but the judge just sees a first-degree misdemeanor for a digital agreement.
Yeah.
The system is entirely compartmentalized.
And that compartmentalization is a feature of the legal system, not a bug. But it undeniably leads to these moments of intense public dissonance when the ultra-wealthy are involved.
It really does. Let's step back and recap the journey we've been on with this deep dive, because we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We started with this bizarre, almost comical imagery of a billionaire NFL owner getting busted in a trailer park in his hometown.
A guy who could afford anything, anywhere, caught over a $140 transaction.
Exactly. And then we unpacked the cold clinical mechanics of how the police set these digital traps, focusing on the agreement rather than the physical act, and using the suspect's own cell phone as the ultimate criminal tool to lock in the conviction.
Right.
We looked at how extreme wealth completely changes the legal playbook, how the rich don't fight for their innocence in court, they fight for invisibility in the press, taking those swift 24-hour plea deals to protect their reputations.
Yep.
And finally, we pulled back the curtain on the tragic, horrific reality of the trafficked women who are trapped in these environments, and how the minor fines levied against the buyers feel entirely inadequate compared to the misery they are financially supporting.
It is a complex, incredibly dark ecosystem where extreme wealth, digital surveillance, and human exploitation all collide in very mundane settings.
Yeah.
And looking at all of this, the ease of the arrests, the swiftness of the plea deals, the minor fines, it leaves me with one final lingering question.
Oh, what's that?
If high-profile buyers know that their immense wealth cannot shield them from the digital footprint of a simple text message,
Okay.
and if law enforcement knows that these stings rarely result in meaningful jail time for the rich, are these operations actually dismantling the trafficking networks?
Oh, wow.
Or are they just publicly taxing the buyers while the real architects of the abuse remain completely in the shadows?
That really is the core question, because at the end of the day, whether you are in a high-end luxury resort or shoplifting at a dollar store in a trailer park, the system seems designed to just collect the fee, clear the docket, and let the cycle continue.
It's a very uncomfortable reality and definitely something for all of us to mull over.